Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. Since there are a lot of questions about the tuning menu settings, I will briefly go through these in today's tutorial. And for this, I will be using the CSL Elite Racing Wheel officially licensed for PS4. So first of all, you can access the tuning menu by pushing in the tuning menu button, and you can navigate through the tuning menu using the directional stick of the Fanatec steering wheel. So the settings we can find while going through our menu are sensitivity, force feedback, the shock setting, ABS, drift, force, spring, damper, the brake force setting, and the force effect intensity setting. So let me go more in depth about these settings. So with the sensitivity, the force feedback, and the drift setting, you can change the mechanical setting of the wheel. The sen or sensitivity setting defines the steering angle of the wheel. It can be set from 90 degrees till 1080 degrees. You can change the value by moving the directional stick up and down. So if you set this to 9, it can only be turned 90 degrees. If you set it to 108, it can be turned to a maximum of 1080 degrees. If you decide to set this setting to automatic, the steering angle will be defined by the game itself. So this is depending on the game. The next setting, for most people the most important setting, is the force feedback setting. So the force feedback setting refers to the overall strength of the wheelbase. So it defines the maximum strength of the motor when force feedback signals are sent from the software to the wheelbase. So if you set this one off, there will be no force feedback effect, and you can change the value between 1 being the lowest till 100 the maximum. Personally, I set this to a maximum of 100 and I reduce the force feedback in-game. So go further with the next setting, the drift mode. The drift mode reduces the overall resistance of the wheel. So if you turn the wheel to a specific direction, the drift mode will push the wheel into the steering direction. So it will let you turn the wheel more easily. In the range of -5 to off, it will reduce the basic dampening of the wheel, and from 1 to 5, it will make the wheel turn faster. So this means that the Drift Plus mode is mostly used for drift races as it turns the wheel faster. We advise you to use Drift Off or Drift Minus for regular racing in order for you to have a proper racing experience. The settings shock and ABS are for the vibration feedback you want to receive. So the shock setting is the vibration strength of the vibration motor of the wheel, and you can set it from 0 to 100% depending on how much vibration you want to feel. Take note that this setting is only implemented in our Club Sport wheels. So the ABS function gives you a direct vibration feedback based on your brake input. So if you set this, for example, to 5%, vibration will start once you hit 5% of brake input. If you set this to 100%, you will receive vibration feedback once you push the brake with a maximum of 100%. So with the BRF or the brake force setting, you can adjust the required brake force to your own preference. So if you set this to 100%, you can push the brake very light to achieve a maximum of brake signal. If you set it to off, you will have to push the brake with a maximum of 100% to achieve the maximum of brake signal. The force, the spring and the damper are the force feedback modifiers, and with these settings you can change the force feedback signals coming from the game, but it depends on what force feedback signals are used by the game. So the last setting of the tuning menu is the FEI setting, which is the force effect intensity setting that comes with all the CSL Elite wheelbases and reduces the mechanical sound of the wheelbase depending on the game and on the tuning menu settings. So some early reviews of the CSL Elite Racing Wheel were made without this setting because it was introduced at a later point. So noises that were reported by these early reviews are now solved with this setting. The preference to the tuning menu settings depends on the game, but it also depends up to own preference. So remember that you can save up to 5 different profiles if you want to switch between games without losing any settings. So guys, that was it for this tutorial about the tuning menu settings. Stay tuned for the next tutorial. Thanks for watching and see you next time.